All right, Bret, I want to start with two stories, and they're both short.
I
And
don't
the
even know what one of them's going to be.
the first one begins with the first time we met,
Yeah.
2012. It was in a hotel lobby, and I was like relatively new to the online fitness game. You were already like basically a grandfather at this point, had one of the biggest blogs, and I was really looking forward to meeting you. Right, so I waited for you in the hotel lobby to arrive, and you arrived at like 9 or 10 at night or something like that. And I thought we'd chat and like give each other like a high five or a handshake or something like that. And that would be it. And we'd see each other the next day. We stayed in that lobby until 4 a.m. and spoke to the point where, just to paint a picture, Roger Lawson was asleep. He tried to stay up with us while you were like dispelling like all of this wisdom and fell asleep on the couch beside. And if I remember correctly, Alan Aragon had also fallen asleep on a different couch in that same lobby. And this entire time, you had a sketchbook and you were drawing for me everything from like the fitness information, like circle jerk, to force vectors in muscle force vectors and everything in between. Okay, that's number one. The second time, this was a couple years later, I was at your house because you used to live in Arizona. My parents spend the winters there. And I was at your house and we were just hanging out. Allison, my girlfriend, now wife, was there as well. And you were so proud. And I'll never forget your face. You were like, John, you're going to be so proud of me, man. Look. And you handed me your profit and loss statement.
I can't remember that.
And you're just like, look, I do accounting now.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're making good money. This is good for you. And the reason that I bring up these two stories is, to me, these showcase just how much of an obsession this industry is for you. And it started very much as a one-sided obsession, just an obsession with the body, with the musculature, with training, to the point where, like, how many years in until you figured out that like you needed to take control of the financial bit, right? But since then, it's grown into a great business, like multi-million dollars, I assume. I don't know. And I want to get into as much as we can, from your membership to your inventions to million plus social media followings, your in-person to online coaching, everything else. But let's just start with one question. This comes from Rachel, somebody on Instagram. And I reached out to a bunch of mutual friends of ours as well for questions and memories of you. And so there's some good stuff. But the first question, single best piece of advice you'd give to a coach starting out today?
Well, you can't control social media trends. I mean, look at the things just since I've been a coach that we've been hit with. The housing market collapse. If you were a trainer during those times, half your clients left. They had to. Their husbands lost their jobs or whatever. We had a pandemic. We had this shipping container fiasco. We had the Great Resignation. We have had all these, and then just the algorithm changes. Who can predict? Right now, it's Reels and Twitter and ironically Twitter style posts, but not on Twitter.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, you don't know anything about that. But it's that's what's in now. What's going to be in 2 years? You can't predict all of these things, but what you can control is your expertise and your knowledge. And I think that a lot of these newer people, they're young, and it was a different world when I came up. We didn't have social media. I waited 10 years till I wrote my first article. I was a trainer for 10 years. I owned a gym. Like, imagine owning a gym and inventing all these exercises and still not writing about it until you felt you were ready.
Right.
And so try to go play the long game. A lot of people are like, oh God, if I can make these reels and if I can just get 1 million followers and go viral, if I can go viral, but then what? You don't have the infrastructure. You don't have the back structure to be able to profit off of that. And to me, it's like, number one, having the expertise is cool because you're a better coach, you're a better trainer, and the more you know, the more fun this field is, the more
Hmm.
interesting it is, the better you can help people. But so not only are you going to enjoy the field more, but you also make more money in the long run because you're an actual expert, not
Right.
posing as one. You
Yeah.
actually, like me, I dictate. You're going to find a lot of original things that I say in this podcast. You wouldn't interview half of these TikTokers and influencers now. They don't know anything. They just repeat. They just copy other people's stuff. They're looking around. They open up social media for ideas. I come up with my own ideas because I've been a trainer for 26 years. I've been lifting for 31 years.
You have, I mean, you've brought in this, of course, this history of stuff. I think what you're hitting on more than anything else is just the importance of having substance behind what you do. I mean, even if you can get attention, which is a big even if you can get attention, there's kind of this so what? What else you got for me? It's like, oh, all you know how to do is make really funny skits on TikTok. Like there's nothing else, and there's nothing really of substance. There was a memory from a mutual friend, Ben Bruno, and he says that when you were getting your PhD in Auckland, he said you and him used to Skype on the phone for 5 hours at a time. And I have a little bit of experience with this. Now I know you and Ben are closer than I am with him, but I was in LA at one point, and I was supposed to get together with Ben, like the next day. And he sends me a text message, and he's very apologetic, and he's just like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. Like one of my clients, yeah, he trains all these celebrities and stuff like that, and so one of my clients, needs me tomorrow. I'm so sorry I have to cancel, but like, let's talk. Let's talk now." And he calls me on the phone. It's 10:30 at night. We spoke till midnight. And all that I could think when I hung up the phone was, who does that anymore? But that's the type of person he is, and that's the type of person that you are. And this is like when you were doing your PhD in Auckland, I mean, you were, what, 15, 20 years into your career, and you're geeking out like a maniac with this other guy who's also really well, like at this point, he's like training Justin Timberlake. Right? Like that's not an exaggeration. He's quite literally training Justin Timberlake at this point. And you and him, I mean, you're in Auckland, he's in LA, so I don't know what the time difference is, but it's middle of the night for one of you. What were you guys talking about?
Well, Ben and I always joked around that people would be like, oh my God, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that
No,
conversation.
you wouldn't. You'd be Raj Law asleep on the couch, buddy.
I'm like, we talk like meatheads do. Like, dude, I tried, I tried this, Ben will be like, you should try this single leg exercise I did. I know you're more of a bilateral guy, but I swear you'll feel it a lot. And
Right,
I'll be like, when I do bench press with this tweak, I feel it way more when I do this. We like to compare anecdotes. Like we're bros.
right.
We just like to hear because it gives you ideas and for your own training. And then yeah, we talk about diet and it's so simple and stuff like little diet tricks, like stuff that you wouldn't necessarily tell clients like to do. But I'll be like, if I wake up and have an energy drink first thing in the morning, I'm not hungry for a couple hours, and then I don't eat as much throughout the day. Like that's not obvious advice, but we'll talk about stuff like that where it's like kind of like our own training, our own diet, our own and then we're being more of the experienced guys now because we were the new guys on T Nation for a while,
I
and
remember.
then the new breed,
That's when I was coming up in the game. I
yeah,
remember that. Yeah.
the new breed comes in, and you're like, did you see this new guy? Did you see this
Right.
Joker? Which was what people did with me when I first started, but you earned that right.
There's this apocryphal story. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I always remember it because it talked about old yogis. Like I'm talking like hundreds of years ago, right? Old yogis, and they would invent these poses and stuff like that. And when you actually looked at the poses they were doing, they were perfectly in line with the myofascial slings of the body. And they had no idea what the myofascial slings were. And then you fast forward to like Arnold and Lou Ferrigno and all these guys, right? Muscle Beach type golden era guys. And they were so obsessive at the same time. And they had no idea what the research said. But I heard the story of Arnold where he would basically invent this exercise and didn't quite know what it did, but beat the living shit out of himself with that exercise just so he could see where he was sore the next day to figure out what it worked. And that was how he invented a lot of the exercises and stuff like that. And it's reminiscent of what you're talking to me about. It's like, yeah, your difference is that, I mean, you're just a huge nerd who reads a lot and has a PhD and stuff like that. But really, at your core, you're a meathead who has just been so obsessive in the practice of this thing for so many years that you figured out stuff intuitively without the research that you can now go and back up with the research. But there's this misconception that research figures out things. It's not true. What's true is that people actually have epiphanies largely based off of deep experience. Something snaps and they're like, holy shit, this is my eureka moment. And then they go and write the paper, and then they go and do the research to prove that thing out. But what you're talking to me about is the process of figuring the thing out, and then you've just so happened to gone and done the research and being like, no, there's actually something to this. And it's really neat. It's really neat to have been a part of for the last 15 years.
Well, I think I describe myself like, what are you? I'm a lifter first and foremost. Like, I still want gains, and I'm 46. I still want to deadlift 700 pounds. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I have goals. I still want to be more jacked. I hope at
Right.
age 50 I still look good. You know, and then I'm a trainer, a coach second, and then third I'm a scientist. Whereas I think a lot of PhDs are a scientist first, and a lifter or a coach second. But what you said is usually true. Usually it's like research takes a look at stuff that are being done in the field. But every once in a while you get an idea from the research. I remember one time I was looking at, a study. They were doing a prone hip extension. Subject is laying down flat,
Yeah.
kicking one leg up. And they looked at that versus if the leg was abducted and externally rotated, it looked weird. I was like, that's not, I'm like, but that outperformed the abducted, externally rotated hip performing a hip extension. It was like a frog pump, but laying down. It was like a reverse hyper frog,
Right.
frog reverse hyper, but just one leg. But I looked at that and I'm like, I wonder if you could make an exercise out of that. Like it outperformed straight leg. And I remember going, okay. Okay, you could do that two legs together, but you could also do it laying supine and doing frog pumps. And then I remembered Smitty Diesel back in the day posting the feet together, and I thought that looks silly. And then I did it, and I went out to the garage and I did it. I'm like, oh my God, I feel this so much in my glutes. So that was where a study drove something practical, whereas usually it's the other way around. Probably 9 out of 10 times it's the other way around. But every once in a while, you get an idea from reading the research.
Mm-hmm. When you feel unfocused or overwhelmed, what do you do to get back on track?
Oh, it happens so much now. I think now more than ever, it's hard because it's like, I see some of these guys like on YouTube, like Jeremy Ethier, he's got 4 million followers. I'm like, I could be like him and I could have 4 million YouTube followers, but that's all you can do. That's his life. Where I see Uberman killing it right now, Andrew Huberman podcast. And I'm like, I don't think I'd be as good as him, but I could have my own podcast and I could do a good job with a podcast, but he scripts, that's his life. That's what he does.
That's his life.
He releases one podcast a week and it's like, that's what you have to do. And then I'm like, why don't I go full right now? I don't even handle my own TikTok. I have my worker David do it, but why don't I handle TikTok and start posting 10 times a day, answering questions, duets, stitches, all the stuff like that. I could do it so quickly.
I don't even know what those words mean. Stitches.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've never done them. I just learn them. But anyway, I've never done them on TikTok, but I made my big impact on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me but it's like, trust me, like I'm going, I always want to be training people. If you don't train people, you start becoming esoteric. You read research and you get too sucked into the theory You're not grounded and practical. I can listen to these guys. What the algorithms seem to be rewarding right now are bold black and white claims.
Right.
Everyone should squat this way. This is the way you squat, and sumo deadlifts don't do this. But I can just think of my 30 clients right now and go, yeah, that wouldn't work for Masa. That wouldn't work for Kiana. Kiana can't squat that way. It hurts her hips. This person does it. Like you can tell these people, real coaches can tell these people don't train anyone. They're just fakers. They're jokers. They're not real trainers. They're fake trainers trying to act like they know biomechanics and know something that the rest of us don't, when really, the more you go in this field, the more you realize how different everyone is. But anyway, your question is, how do I stay focused? I always want to be training people. I always want to be reading research. I always want to be lifting weights myself, and I want to be kicking butt on social media. But I have an equipment business. I come out with new equipment. I want Booty by Bret to be better every year. I want to improve upon everything, and it gets to a point where you're so overwhelmed. But with the social media platforms, do I do Twitter? Do I not? Facebook, I quit so long ago. Facebook's stupid, but should I be posting to Facebook? Should I be doing TikTok? Should I be posting YouTube Shorts? Should I be doing YouTube video? Which social media platform? Should I have my own podcast? And then you get to a point where you're so overwhelmed, you feel paralyzed, and you feel like you can't do anything. And that's where when I do that, I try to go, okay, I'm going to spend the next 3 days just focusing on lifting weights and taking a good nap every day.
So it all comes back to that for you then. It comes back to your own workouts, and it comes back to you training others. It sounds like.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, you have to think what if you won, what was that lottery a couple weeks ago? $1 billion or something?
I'm Canadian. We don't have any of that. Yeah.
It reached the California Powerball reached 1.2 billion or 1.6 billion, whatever. Say you won that lottery. What would you do in your life? What would you do? I would still want to train people. I just have a much better gym and I'd have way better equipment, but I would train people for free. I wouldn't charge them. I just have, 40, 50 people coming in every day, and I'd have my hours. Maybe I reduce my hours a little bit. I'd be like, guys, I'm going to be here during these hours, and I'll help you with your training, and we'll have a good time, and it'll be nice and fun, and I'm going to help you be your best. But I wouldn't. It's not like I'd quit training. That's my purpose on this life. So if you do have a purpose and you know what you're good at and what makes you feel intrinsically rewarded, then you always have that to fall back on. And that's what's hard in this industry now is you see there's so many different ways to make money, and people feel obligated, especially people with a lot of followers. I see Lane do this sometimes. I'm like, Lane, chill out. Lane Norton, I'm like, you don't have to have everything. You don't have to have a supplement line, a pay website, an app, this, that, because he's so energetic. He's so hyperactive.
But you do. I mean, you have, tell me if I'm missing anything. You've got online coaching, in-person coaching, a membership program. You've got fitness equipment that you've invented. You had a research review. I don't think you have that anymore. You have, what else do you have?
The Booty by Bret is my main money maker.
Okay, so that's the membership.
But the real coaching, I haven't charged anyone in 7 years.
Oh, okay. So that's like your lab. But that's you know what that is? That's the Mexican fisherman story. Do you know the Mexican fisherman story?
No.
So the Mexican fisherman story is there's this fisherman in Mexico in a small town, and he goes out to the same spot every single day, and he has a way that he fishes every single day, and he catches the most beautiful, biggest fish, and he brings it back in. And one day an American businessman sees him and says, "Sir, how did you catch this fish?" And he explains, his process. And he goes, "Oh, that's amazing. You should sell these fish." And he says, "Oh, what would I do? At night when I get home, I fish for half the day, and then I get home and I have dinner with my wife, and then I drink wine and play guitar with my friends, and then I go home and I make love to my wife, and then I wake up and I do it again. So what would I do if I sell the fish?" She's like, "Oh, we go to the market, you sell the fish." She's like, "Oh, then what would happen?" "Oh, well then Then what you do is you'd be able to buy a bigger boat. Oh, what would I do with a bigger boat? Well, then you'd be able to catch more fish. Then you'd be able to sell the fish in the Mexico City, in the main market. He goes, oh, then what would happen? He's like, oh, then my friend, then you'd be able to buy an even bigger boat. Then you'd be able to catch more fish, hire a staff. Then you'd be able to can the fish. Then you'd be able to sell them internationally. Then you'd become rich. So then what would happen? Well, then you'd be able to sell your company and retire and fish for half the day and then play guitar with your friends and drink wine and go home to your wife at night.
Which is what he has.
Which is what he has. And what you just said in your answer to that question is the Mexican fisherman story, which I think is a stark reminder to all of us, is when you feel focused or overwhelmed, what do you do to get back on track? Because it is fucking easy to get unfocused, to get overwhelmed these days. I get caught up all of the time looking at all these social media feeds. I'm like, oh, I should be doing that. Oh, I'm better than that person. Oh, who the fuck is that guy to be talking that way? That's bullshit. Oh, they got that from me.
Yeah.
Right? How dare they? And then I take a step back and I'm like, nah, man, I'm the Mexican fisherman. Because what I think a lot of the time, what people don't realize is that you can't just trade a part of what you have with somebody else. You have to trade everything. And whenever I look at these people, I would not trade my life with those people. And what you hit on there is so powerful. When you feel unfocused, when you feel overwhelmed, you go back to do what you know in your core, in your gut, is what you should always be doing, which is training yourself, which is working with people. Sure, yeah, maybe you'd have a bit nicer gym, but like, if you're honest, like, what else do you really want? I mean, like you could buy it now, right? If you really wanted it.
My friend Brad Schoenfeld always is like, man, you need to take a step back and smell the roses. You have the life. You have the greatest life. And
so here's a question from Brad. Let me ask you Brad's question.
Okay, great.
This is Brad's question. He goes, ask him what the key to maximizing income generation is in the fitness business. He says, I've been speaking my internship class several times. A key point he made for success is to develop multiple income streams, which is what you've done. His point was that if you have multiple ways to derive income, you'll always make money. If one stream dries up, the other will cover, blah, 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 right? He says, it's powerful and important advice from somebody who walks the walk. But what you just said to me also is that Booty by Bret is what makes you the most amount of money. So is that still the advice that you give? Or was that the advice that got you to the point where you figured out what your main income generator is and now you can go deeper on that?
Well, so that's what I always tell my friend Alan Aragon. I'm like, Alan, you have the research review. Yeah. Alan's the GOAT. Name a topic that's popular right now. Alan was the one talking about it 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, I know.
He's the GOAT. He's the father of all this stuff, all these topics that are popular now.
He was the guy doing it.
So I'm like, you should be a multimillionaire, But he's the Mexican fisherman. But anyway,
yeah. I've got a question from him too. I don't know if we'll get to it, but yeah, him and I had a good chat yesterday.
With
I spoke to all your buddies. I was like, what do you want to know from Bret?
Well, Alan should have multiple revenue streams. He should have more ebooks and more things or whatever, a course, something. But for me, that was critical in the beginning because it's like, I saw you post something the other day and I think I posted something exactly like it.
I did it first though. You copied me.
2 years ago. A couple years ago, my client, Ashley Hodge, I made a post on her. I said, listen, Ashley doesn't have a lot of followers. She had 2,000, I think like 2,500 at that time.
Right.
But she's a grinder. She has 15 regular clients and 15 online clients. And
she's making $100,000 a year.
Yeah. So you I think you said if you got 30 clients paying you $300 a month, that's $108,000 a year.
Yep.
And so that's what I pointed out. And I'm like,
at like a 98% profit margin.
Yeah. Get your 15 regular clients, get your 15 online clients, and you're making six figures. And people lose sight of that. She didn't have a lot of followers. And it's funny, I made that post and she went up to like 22,000 followers overnight.
Right.
That's funny. Followers. But the reason why they followed her is because they clicked on her profile and she has a lot of educational posts. And that's when the algorithms were really favorable, before the changes. We all were doing good. We all were crushing it. I went up 1,200
Right.
followers a day for like 2 years.
Yeah. Whereas
Um,
now it's very spiky. I had a period in the last 2 weeks or so when I went up about 40,000 followers in like a week and a half. But
really,
it's just very spiky. Yeah, it's very spiky. Like something pops off,
there's no
and that's
predicting it.
great.
Yeah,
What's that?
it used to be
Well,
so consistent. Now I feel like we're all throwing darts in the wind, hoping
it's
it's
throwing darts. It's throwing darts in the wind, is what it is right
yeah.
now. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, there are things for sure that seem to work better than others, but it's just a matter of whether you are kind of like ordained by the algorithm on any given day. And it's kind of gotten to the point with me where I'm like, well, fuck it, I don't need another. I have 167 fucking thousand whatever followers. Like you've got 1.2 million. Like you don't need another person. There was somebody who reached out to me a couple months ago, and he said, he's like, hey, I need some advice. How do I got to get some more clients. How do I increase my social media followers? And I immediately took a step back and I was just like, we'll call him Corey. His name wasn't Corey, but I was like, Corey, like, how many clients do you have now? He's like, 3. It's like, okay. How many clients do you need? He's like, oh God, if I had 10 clients, that'd be amazing. And I was like, you have 2,300 Instagram followers. You have 3 clients. Do you really think adding another 2,000 Instagram followers is going to help you achieve your goal of 10 customers? Or do you think the problem might be somewhere else in this equation? Like, what is the problem you're solving? The issue is that these networks have become so addictive to the producer. What I remember when this switched, actually, this is when I'm going to age myself, when Periscope came out. Periscope was the first social, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was the first social media
Twitter
network.
based, right?
It was like, I don't even remember. All that I remember is that it was like a video game. It was the first network that came out that figured out that actually the key to growth was to addict the producers of content because they're the ones that feed your system. Before then, it was very much a user, like consumer-based market. Now, all of these little hearts that pop, it's like a Japanese video game, right? All these little hearts that pop up on the screen and, oh shit, the hearts are not as dense as they were yesterday. Like it's just, it's addictive. It's little dopamine, like ding, 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 just nucleus accumbens, just flood my shit. Like, and that's why it's so detrimental to people who can't take a step back and ground themselves, like you said, and be like, what's my Mexican fisherman story? Right? Like I gotta be serious here. And then like your friend Ashley, who I think I've come across her stuff before, she seems pretty rad. But like your friend Ashley, where it's like, you have 3 customers, you need 10. The answer is not to increase your Instagram. How do you think people got customers before Instagram? Because I can tell you right now, people had 10 customers before Instagram. And if you do what they did back then, it would actually work better now.
Word of mouth. Do a good job with someone and have them refer you. That's what it used to
Yeah.
be.
In a tight network, in a community.
Yeah.
There was a story I told on this podcast a couple weeks ago about Bolton Foods. I just walked out. I have like a little office pod that I built outside of my house on the lawn. And I walked out of my office and there was this van, this cooler van that was outside, and this guy like waved over and he said hi, right? And the van said Bolton Foods, and I spent $500 on meat from it. And what he said to me was, hey, we're just in the neighborhood delivering to one of your neighbors. If you have a minute, I'd love to talk to you about what we have. And like, you think about how brilliant that is. I don't know whether this guy was actually making a delivery to my neighbor or not.
He wasn't.
Probably what happened was that he was like, yo, I got this expensive meat that I need to sell.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a rich neighborhood in the middle of the day, and I'm going to talk to whoever I need to talk to.
Right.
And what, of course, has happened is we bought the meat. It was amazing. And then I saw him 2 weeks later doing the same thing. And he waved to me. He's like, hey, how's the steak? I'm like, it's amazing. One of my neighbors, they're like, oh, is that good? I'm like, yeah. And then they went and bought meat. Because when you exist in a tight neighborhood in real life, people talk. When you exist on the internet, everything you do is siloed. And not only that, the work that you do, especially if you're in fitness, the work that you do is isolated from any promotion. Like if you work on a gym floor, every minute you're training a client, you're marketing, right? If you work online, let's say, or if you want to get clients online and not in the gym, for example, every minute that you're working, you have to spend 2 minutes marketing. And it's extra jobs. And then these people aren't connected to those people who aren't connected to those people. It's playing the game on hard mode. It's all that it is,
Back
right?
in the day, my first gym lifts, which I opened in 2007, I believe, 2006,
Mm-hmm.
2007. But yeah, my client, I had this client, Leslie. She referred 13 of her colleagues to lift.
Right.
13 of the most clients I had at that time period was 55, and 13 of them came from her.
Yep.
And
Mine's
then
name was Kathy.
you're like Paul Revere type person. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's like you just do a good job locally. But what you talked about, I don't know if this has I never took business classes, so I make up my own terms, but like your profit per follower
Mm.
ratio, I was talking to, or like sales per follower
Right.
ratio.
Yeah. What's
It's
what's
like,
the conversion rate? Three clients for 2,500
well, even
followers.
like
What's your
I
conversion
had
rate?
I have this colleague who has 1 million followers, and she's like, I want to increase my followers too. And I said, what do you make right now, if you don't mind my
Yeah.
asking? She said, I'm making like 100 grand a year. I go, okay, you're making 10 cents per follower. You got 1 million followers, you're making 100 grand. You're making
Right.
10 cents per follower. I don't think you need more followers. You need to
Yeah.
convert more of that. You need the infrastructure to be able to capitalize off these followers. And
Right.
and I was like, I'm making, over $4 per, well over $4 per follower profit. You're making 10 cents. You know, I'm making, you know, 40 times per follower what you're making. And so it's they don't have anything to offer. They're just entertaining people with no business backing behind the entertainment.
What does your team staff look like right now?
Well, it says recording continues smoothly. Live video will return when their internet improves.
Oh, that's fine.
So
We'll start recording.
I can't see you though. Can you see me?
I can see you. Yeah,
Oh,
I can see you.
I
It'll
can't
be
see you.
uploaded. All the video and everything gets uploaded separately, so we're good. And then it
All right.
gets put together. Yeah. What does your team look like? What does your staff look like?
Whew. God, I should have written this out, but I'm gonna leave some people out. But I have um like starting from the beginning, I have Kevin, who's my assistant. He helps with like Booty by Bret moderator, and Jamie. She's uh, also, they get so mad if I call them assistant, but I don't know what else to call them. But they help out with Booty by Bret mainly,
Okay.
and then like customer service emails and stuff. And then um, I have my sister. Well, I have Matt, my CEO. He's great because like, yeah, when I met him, I was in trouble because back then, this is what we did forever, John. You'd film a YouTube video, write a blog post, embed the YouTube video in the blog post,
Yeah.
publish the blog post it to Facebook and Twitter with the
Mm-hmm.
thumbnail, and then send it out to your newsletter. That was like the process.
Oh,
And
I'm well aware. I didn't even do YouTube.
well, like if you're a coach, like me teaching
Yeah.
strength training, you were a business person, but yeah, it was like you'd post. Yeah, that was what we did for so many years. But when I met my CEO Matt, it was I would post something, and then if it got any attention, if it got any traction, the post would all of a sudden the website would shut down. Like
Oh, okay.
I had this WooCommerce plugin that was conflicting with some other plugin on WordPress, and I was like, I'm losing my mind. Like I make a good post, and
Yeah.
I'm penalized, and I got a dedicated server. I I tried everything, and I could not fix it. And he comes along and I'm like, can you get my websites on Shopify? Like, he's like, I can do that. I'm like, and then he's like, do you have any other ideas? I'm helping out with hip thrust right now. Do you have any other ideas? I'm like, I have a million ideas. I can't do them. I want to sell
Right.
these. I mean, I invented the hip thrust. I'm not even profiting off the sponges that you put around the bar, the glute loops that everyone's wearing, I want all this equipment I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. I'm too busy and I don't know. I don't have, that's not my area of expertise. He's like, that is my area of expertise. So he helped me grow the company. He's amazing.
In terms
Without
of
him,
like
I would,
building out the different products and stuff like that.
yeah. And
Hmm.
doing all this stuff that that either I don't like to do or that I'm not good at. And then
And so
there's
for
like,
the equipment, you partner with other companies, right?
with the equipment I have, um, I don't even know what their company is called. A to Z. I'm just gonna butcher it, but it's Greg
It's a
and Zach.
manufacturer.
Greg and Zach, they're amazing. They're in Minnesota,
Oh, okay.
and Greg invented Power Block. Greg Olson invented Power Block dumbbells. He worked for
Oh,
Cybex
okay.
back in the day. Like, I'll be like,
Okay.
this is my favorite leg press, and he's like, oh yeah, I helped build that. Like that, I helped design that. This is
But
my
this is,
favorite 45-degree hyper. He's like, I remember, like, we designed ours based off those dimensions, but they're amazing. They're so it's been such a good partnership. So I have my BC Strength with me, basically me, Matt,
Mhm.
Greg, Zach, and then my sister handles all the customer service for BC Strength. And it's great because she cares about the company because it's a family business. She doesn't want she wants
Right.
it to be run well. So we have very good customer service. And I remember when I first ordered my first equipment back in the day from Elite FTS, 2003 or five or something. I ordered, like a $15,000 order, and I was so excited. It took 9 months to get there. That's still the way a lot of companies are.
Hmm.
And Rogue comes along and they send you your stuff the next week. And you're
Right.
like, what? They had it in stock. They had it ready to ship. And I wanted to be like that. So I spend a lot of money up front having my stuff available. So when you order from me, you get it the next week. There's no better feeling than, like, when you want something, when you're
Yeah.
an addict, like an equipment addict like me, you want it the next week. You don't want to have to wait. So I wanted to model my business after Rogue and my customer service and have, like, higher level. Obviously, I don't have, like, people answering phones from. I'm not at that level,
Right.
but people do know that we have very good customer service, and I charge very reasonable rates. So I have my kind of
Let
like
me
my,
let me ask you something on that. Let me interrupt you on that.
yeah,
One of the things that's always jumped out to me so much about you is your social media growth obviously was quite steep at one point. And I think a lot of people are under this misconception that like you came out of nowhere. It's like, nah, like anybody who's been around in the game has remembered, your old white website, then your like sparkly website to where you are now. And I mean, you were sharing like the work of others for
yeah,
years on your blog. You were the first person to ever create. I mean, I would wake up. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I would wake up when I was personal training, when I was starting my career. I would wake up in the morning and I'd throw like a little like flank steak on the skillet, and I would open up the Bret Contreras like .com list of the best, whatever you called it, best articles of the week,
good
and I
reads
would
of
eat.
the week or so. Yeah,
Yeah, the weeds of the week, right? And I would eat my steak with one hand, and I would flip through the blog post. That was like a lot of how I got introduced to this world. And I think I was probably writing a little bit at that point, but not much. It was very, very early. And so you didn't come out of nowhere. But what you did when you started doing social media was that you were doing social media, but you figured out a way to bring real life and build events like with your glute lab. And I remember back in the day, you had this like sign, like this Instagram sign, that when people showed up at the glute lab, they would pose for a picture with it. And it became a destination.
yeah.
And the same thing with your equipment. I mean, I don't know how much money your equipment makes. I know margins in the equipment business are nowhere like margins in the membership, online digital membership business.
Yep.
But what it does for you is now you have a physical thing in people's gyms. I see people posting videos all the time with the BC Strength on it. And you've consistently figured out a way to bring real life and get into people's homes and their gyms and use that to grow your name. Has that been on purpose? Was that something that you thought to do
No,
before you
no,
did
no,
it? Was
no.
that something you figured out later on?
It's all just, John, when I started, I didn't care. I was a high school math teacher making 30 grand a year in Phoenix.
Yeah.
You know, Arizona had like the lowest pay out of back then we were 49th out of 50 states in state funding for education. I started out making 30 grand per year. 6 years later, I'm making like 34 or 36,000. And I look at the salary schedule and I'm like, it tops out at 59 grand. If you have 30
Right.
years of experience plus a PhD, you get paid 59 grand. You don't even make six figures if you wanted to. So I was like,
Right.
oh, this is not okay with me. So I'm used to making nothing. So I just need, if I'm making 50 grand, that's a lot to me back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been so frugal, and I save more. I never get into debt. I never take out loans. I pay things in full. I buy things in full, except houses. But I buy a house and I pay it off within 1 year. I've done it 4 straight years in a row. I I don't live above my means. I'm not flashy. I don't wear jewelry. I don't wear nice clothes. I don't drive a nice car. But I do pay off houses and I do invest in my business very
Right.
well, And so what I did when I started out was I didn't care about money. I just wanted popularity. I wanted my methods being spread everywhere. So a lot of the guys in the industry, they could tell. Like when I wrote my first article on T Nation, they're like, "This guy's different. This guy knows. This guy he's different. He's going to be a star. He doesn't
What
know
was
it
your
yet."
first? I love the story of your first meeting of Eric Cressy, where you basically like shoved like an 800-page book about glutes in his face.
No,
What
I
was
went to
that?
I went to Perform Better seminar, and I had this like printout, this like report for all these guys. And looking back, it's so funny because like a lot of it was about some of it was on machines, and
Yeah.
those guys were so anti machines.
Oh,
They
that
must
was all the mobility phase, wasn't it?
yeah the remember like Eric hated the Smith machine so bad. It was like
Mm,
the only good use for a Smith machine is to do like inverted rows off of or something, or like a
right.
but back then that was there was like literally anti hypertrophy sentiment back then, anti bodybuilding should I say,
Right.
and even like Chad Waterbury's anti bodybuilding hypertrophy plan, like it was like do functional exercises. And I feel like Brad Schoenfeld and I really helped bring the pendulum back. We started talking about hypertrophy science and people cared about it. So we helped bring balance back to the equation. But back then, yeah, I did not care about the money. I just wanted my methods spread around the world. So all these guys would email me, popular guys in the field, and be like, dude, you're doing it all wrong. You're
Yeah.
going about it so wrong, Brett. You should be charging way more money for that ebook. You shouldn't be giving everything away for free. You're answering anyone and everyone on social media. You're too accessible. Who's going to want to go to your seminars? And I was like, you think I'm giving everything away for free? I have so much more up here. I am
Yeah.
unlimited up here. I
That's
have
the
so much
scarcity
more.
mindset versus the
I have,
abundance mindset,
yes.
isn't it?
I,
And now
I,
look at you and look at them. I mean, I don't know who
well,
they are, but
I'm more popular than every one of them added
and
up
you've made more
together.
money.
Yeah, and that's
And you've
what's
made more
funny is
money.
I didn't come about it that way. I didn't care about
Right.
that. I would just love when I'd go speak in Spain or Norway or somewhere, and they'd be like, someone's doing hip thrusts, and like
Yeah.
Brad would walk up to him. Brad and I would go to the gym together. Brad would be like, my friend invented that over there, and they'd be like, oh, whatever, yeah, right. And then
Yeah. Right.
like, yeah, look it up, Google it, and they'd come up to me and be like, oh my God, you really did. But so back then I didn't care about. I just wanted the exposure. I wanted the followers. I wanted the influence. That's what I like the most.
Hmm.
I like influence the most. If you said, Brett, you can have 1 million followers, or you could have 10 million followers and make the same amount of money, but you have so much influence. You're the voice of reason in the industry. Or you could just stay at 1 million, but make $10 million, more, $10 million extra. Which would you take? I think most people would be like, I'll take the 10 million. I would take the $10 million.
Right.
I would take the 10 million followers. I want the influence. I want to have influence over my industry that I love so much. That's the most important thing for me. There's the followers, the credibility, the income. They all help each other out. They all are in confluence with one another, because the more money you have, you can buy things like an EMG machine instrument, and you can hire assistants to do more stuff. But I always went about it. The way I went about it was just to try to spread my methods worldwide. And then people would tell me things like, I remember Eric Cressy, you brought him up. He wrote me and said, "You're in the top, you know, 0.1% in the industry in terms of your knowledge. You should be in the top 0.1% of your income. You aren't making any money. I know that. You should. You deserve it." And that planted a seed. And I went, yeah, why don't I make money? Why don't I care about that? I should. And then after I finished my PhD, I remember did you ever read the book E-Myth?
Yeah, but I read it late, so it didn't hit as hard with me,
Yeah.
simply because, like you read like 10 books like that, and that was like the 10th one that I read. So I was like, yeah, no, of course.
Well, that was written in the 70s. That was like the first of its kind.
Right.
But I read that and I'm like, I'm too busy
Yeah.
working in the business to where I can't work on the business. And the day I turned in my PhD thesis, I laid down on my incline bench in my garage gym, my Phoenix garage gym, and I'm like, I haven't had any time to think. I've had no time to focus on my business. Okay, now that my PhD thesis has been submitted, what is it about me? I know I'm unique.
Hmm.
What is it about me that I could generate revenue from? I know I'm sitting on something big. And I said, well, people like this gym and it's popular on Instagram. Men's Health has featured my gym. You're seeing it everywhere. I think people would want to A, do my clients' workouts, and
Yeah.
B, come visit the gym and do seminars. So I remember I started up Glute Lab seminars, and John, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I never know what the fuck I'm doing. I just do it. I start up a podcast. So I'm like, how do you do a podcast? Download Audacity. I remember trying to figure things out. I had a cool podcast. I had 4 episodes, I think, and then I stopped, but they
Oh,
were
there you
good.
go.
I
That's
I
more than most people.
I did a research review. I remember designing my own WordPress blog banner, writing my own ebook and
But it's
converting
just
into
you.
PDF.
But this is the process. Like, I cannot stress that enough. This is the process. You just you know that there's something there. You don't know what it is, and you know the only way to figure it out is just to do shit. And
Yeah,
when you do that, you'll start to
you
make
learn.
connections.
Yeah,
You'll put yourself in motion, and you'll start to figure it out. Most people these days, I find, are never actually doing shit. There's never any substance. They're never actually building anything that is meaningful, that has substance, that is going to help other people. They feel like they're under so much pressure to just put out these short form little snippet, little black and white entertainment type posts. And then even if those work, even if those can get attention, there's nothing else they have. And then they're complaining that they don't have clients. To your point, like, your friend with 1 million followers that's making 100,000 a year. The amount of people that message me on my account that have hundreds of thousands of followers that literally have less than 3 clients. They like I don't understand how they're paying their bills. And yet every single one of them is not messaging me saying, "Hey, how do I actually build a business to add value?" What they're asking me is, "Hey, my engagement has dropped." That's the problem that they think that they have
they're
right now.
focusing on the wrong metrics. Yeah,
It's
but
it's astounding.
when I sat down, I said I want to do Glute Lab seminars, and I will have Strong by Bret membership. That
Yeah.
was called before it was Buddha, but it was Strong by Bret. All of a sudden, I'm getting every month. I'm doing a seminar, a 1-day seminar. I'm charging $3.99, and I'm getting 15 to 20 people to sign up. That's 6 to 8 grand
Hmm.
extra per month. And then I
Right.
started Strong by Bret, and I think I had like 1,200 subscribers right away, and then it grew, and then I'm getting like, I'm at like, I don't know, like 3,500 or something. That's an extra like 12 grand a month or something. I can't remember, but then I
Right.
added the two up, and I'm making 20 grand extra a month.
Yeah.
within like
Just because you did something, just because you're like,
I did
like,
something.
yeah,
And then I'm like, oh my God, I can move to San Diego. Now I was making like 100 grand a year. Now I remember when I moved to San Diego, I'm like, I could just coast. I'm making 440,000 a year.
right,
And I'm like, I'm just going to coast. I'm going to go enjoy San Diego. I'm going to live right by the beach. I bought a house right by the beach. I'm going to go lay out every day. I'm going to read books. And that lasted seriously 1 month.
why, what
I went
happened?
to the beach and I'm like, do not open a gym. Do not open a gym. Relax,
Oh, I
live the
see.
life. And then I'm
Yeah,
like, you can see it on my Instagram. I'm having to hand my phone to strangers and I'm going, can you film this? And they don't center you. You're like down here and the
yeah,
ceiling's up here. And they're so bad at filming you. And you got the guy in the background doing like hunched over, the one arm rows with the worst form. And I'm going, oh, I want my videos to be more, I want my brand to come through. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to build a gym. And I built Glute Lab. And then I started training Masa and Brianna, who have these big old booties. And
okay,
I started, this is just coincidence. Like we didn't have electricity. I didn't have a business license right away. So I'm like, ugh, I want to start training people. So I'm like, okay, twice a week, you're my workout partners. You're my friends. I'm not
yeah,
charging you a dime. We're friends working out together. And when I have my business license in another couple of weeks, I'll start charging you. But all of a sudden, Moss and it's funny because here's another time where I did everything wrong, but it paid off very handsomely for me. All my colleagues that found out I wasn't charging people, they were like, Bret, you need to you're a like almost like it's like a disgrace. Like you need to take yourself seriously.
right,
You know, if you don't value your worth, and I'm like, look, I feel like like these girls are like, I'm almost getting a free sponsorship. They're promoting the
right.
hell out of me. They love me. I don't want to lose any of them. I don't want to lose. So when I all of a sudden I've got like 20 to 30 squad members and I'm like, I don't want to lose any of them. So I got my business license. I'm like, I'm not going to start charging because living in San Diego is expensive. Even just say I charge them $20 a session, some of them can't afford that. That puts
Yeah.
them over and they'd have to quit coming. So I'm like, they're always like, when are we going to make us pay? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry
But
about it.
what you showed there is a deeper understanding. I mean, this is I think why you and I have always got along. But this is also, what's always impressed me about you is that what you've showed is a deeper understanding of how this shit really works versus how this shit is professed to work by people who don't know shit about fuck. I was speaking to, there was 5 different guys I spoke to about advertising for me. And 4 of them asked for money and like small amounts of money, like a few $100s, right? And the 5th one said, yo, honestly, just I'll put this out for you. You cool putting something out for me when the time comes? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And immediately that guy, I was like, you get it. And the other guys don't, because the other guys are trading a few $100s for something that this guy understands is worth many thousands. What you showed in doing things, quote unquote wrong, is you've always understood how the game works, right? You always understood that you have to be obsessive about the beginning, which I think is just a central theme to this whole conversation. But then you support other people and you show up in a way that's serious, like showing, walking up to Eric Cressy with like a 600, 800 page book and being like, look what I did. Nice to meet you. He's not going to read your book, but he's going to be like, well, ain't nobody going to go to that much trouble for some bullshit. So I'm not going to read this guy's dissertation, but he's probably a guy that's worth knowing. There's a certain level of seriousness towards you doing that. And the same thing with what you're talking about with these people that you were training. You realize that what they had to offer you was way greater than any money that they'd be able to give you in terms of their
Well,
growth. Let me ask you a question.
real quick, when stories
Go for
started,
it.
like that's your social proof. Like
Yeah.
all these girls are posting like, I fucking love my coach. Oh my God, I set a PR today. And they're posting videos where they lift a weight and they jump on me and they bear hug me.
Right.
And that, you can't fake that. You can't,
All of
they're
a sudden, 100 members join Booty by Bret.
yeah. So
Right.
that's credibility. And so I was like, I want the credibility. I also want, I'm training 30 high level people. The knowledge I'm gaining from training these high level people are
Right.
insane. But then, yeah, I thought making 440 a year was cool. I was like, I could retire off this. And then, those next 2 years times it by 10. I
Hmm.
10x that from opening up Glute Lab. And I think people were like, this guy's not just some dude in his garage anymore. It's not, it was Bret with all his little EMG stuff and like his
Right.
in his garage. And now he's
Making
got an
people frog pump.
yeah, making people frog pump. But now it's like I can go to his gym and
Yeah.
I'm having seminars at that gym and you can come train and here are my official methods. And I come out with the book Glute Lab and
Hmm.
literally wrote the book on glute training. And, now there's a million glute people out there. I was the very first. And
So let me ask you this. This relates to that. I didn't ask permission to use his name, so I won't use his name. But a mutual friend of ours asked this question. I thought it was a very good one. He said, Bret influenced the way people work out more than anybody else in the past decade. And I agree. I think you have. I think you'd be very hard pressed to argue that. It would be hard to walk into a gym and not see somebody work out that hasn't been in some way, shape, or form influenced by you in the way that they train. So here's my question. Here's my friend's question, which is also my question. Do you feel like you've been adequately compensated in terms of both respect and money for the impact that you've had?
um, I think like Brad would look at me and say, you have the life, you have the greatest life. You should be so thankful. I've never taken time to be thankful. I've never taken time to smell the roses. I've never been the happiest guy in the world. I'm driven. I still am ranting and raving. I'm still pushing. I still want to grow. I still want more influence. I don't like the way the thing. I don't like the trend in the industry where no one credits anyone anymore. Do you remember in
Mm-hmm.
our day, John? You would have been eaten alive if you stole someone's quote or if you
Yeah.
stole someone's system. Now, no one credits anyone. And so, okay, the answer to that is sort of. In the way, like I'm doing well financially, I've been able to buy houses for my family and I've been able to do things. I spoil my squad so much. I spend, $1,000 dinners several nights a week and it's on me. And that's because when I was a teacher, I couldn't afford anything. And my friends would be like, Bret, you better come. We got you. We'll pay for you, but you better come because you're the funnest guy here. You make our night so much more fun. It's if you don't come, we don't even want to go out. So you better be here and we'll pay for you. And I went, this is so cool. I get to go out and have my night comped. I just have to be fun and try to attract women and make the night memorable. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I do now. I do that for these people. I pay it forward. I've gotten to do a lot of that stuff, but now it's this weird world where people they're anti-inventor or something. You post something saying Bret invented the hip thrust and watch the comments. It's crazy. That
Yeah.
never happened back in the day, John. No one said that back when I invented it in 2006. That would have been the time that everyone think about it. If someone was doing it, they would have been like, Bret's claiming he invented the hip thrust, and here's me doing it. Everyone would have mentioned this is weird. We're doing that in Brazil, or we're doing that here. Bret, here's video clips of us doing it. Why are you taking credit for it? No one did that, but now it's 16 years later, and everyone says I didn't invent it. They think it's been around
Yeah.
forever, and they'll be like, "My dad was doing this in the 60s," and I'll say, "Do you have any evidence of that? I'd love to share because I'm also a historian in our industry. I read, I got books right here from 1924.
Yeah.
Alan Calvert's Super Strength. He has pictures of everything. People, so it's so funny because people will say, "LOL." It's always LMFAO
It's
crying
always
face.
it's always passive aggressive.
Yeah, crying
Yeah.
face, crying face, crying
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
We didn't have camera phones back in the day. They act like there's no history of strength training before camera phones existed.
Mm-hmm.
So that frustrates me a little bit. And all the copycats, I started this niche. I made the niche popular. Everyone back in the day, that same seminar I went to that you were talking about with Cressy, there was this guy. Uh, it's funny. You remember Thomas Plummer?
I've never actually met him. We've spoken a few times over the years, but I've never
I
actually
wonder
met him.
he would never remember this, but he was drumming up
Okay.
business for himself at the
Okay.
social. He's like the financial guru, the business guru, and
Right.
he's at that social, and he's comes up to me and he pats me on the back. He's like, "What's your name, son?" "Oh, I'm Bret." "Bret, what's your passion?" I said, "Glutes." He goes, "That's a
You
hobby."
said butts. You
That's a
said
hobby. You'll never make
yeah.
money off that.
Right.
And I remember looking at my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, he's so wrong. He couldn't see it. I could. I made it into a niche. And so I'm happy to see, like this scarcity. You talked about this scarcity versus the abundance mindset. We can
Mhm.
all make money. We can all do well. What bothers me is that you'll see these glute gurus and they put these not glute guru. He's an actual guy. He's my friend, Aiden. But you'll see these glute experts and they'll put
I see them everywhere.
the
The
world's
amount of accounts, the amount of male accounts
there's
that
thousands.
are like glute specialists
There's
now. I
thousands.
can't believe how many new ones I come across
There's
that have
thousands.
like big followings. I'm like, why? How
Yeah.
have I never like come across you before? Yeah.
But they say the world's number one glute expert. And that always
Right.
ticks me off because I want to say, like, have some respect. I've published over 50 studies, have my PhD. I
Right.
invented half the exercise we're doing right now, created all the systems, do 4 exercises per day, do your glute bridge or hip thrust focused movement, your squat or lunge based movement, your hinge or pull type movement, your abduction movement, the rule of thirds, all the training programs, all the way of training was so different before I came around. It was just do squats and lunges and maybe RDLs. Now it's a whole system, and they
Right.
take that system and they pretend like they invented it. But John, that's just how things are. You ever see on Saturday Night Live the what's like that disgruntled, the angry old man? What was his name? He's like, grumpy old man. In my day,
But we are grumpy old men,
we
right? Like,
walked uphill to school in the snow both ways, and we liked it. That's what he always
right.
said. We liked it, but that's
We liked
that's
it.
me now.
But I mean, I romanticize about the past too. I mean, I started my blog in 2011, right? And you were already very much going by then. And so I consider myself to be a great grandfather on the internet because I've been around for 12 years. The way that I explain it to people is I say this shit turns over every 2 years. Every 2 years, there's a new breed of people coming out, and they're always louder and younger and more attractive than the last, and they flame out. And occasionally, like I'm sure you can see it too. You look at somebody and you're like, there's something there. Like they're good shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're gonna make it. But most of the time, I don't even take a second look, even if they're getting a lot of attention, because they've never built anything for themselves. There's no substance there. It's oh, you like good at making pictures. You're just really attractive. And occasionally one of them goes and like starts a supplement line or a clothing line or something, and they become big. But for the most part, they don't. But I do romanticize about the past. I very much romanticize about being able to actually write articles that people read that have substance, that allow you to get past the Mount Stupid of the Dunning-Kruger curve, where you don't just have like the least informed people being the loudest because they're the most confident, because they're the least informed. So there's a question that Andrew Coates asked. I'm not sure if you know Andrew. He's
Yeah, I know
become a good
Andrew.
friend. He's
Yeah,
solid guy in our
great. Yeah, I
industry,
know
and
him.
recommend him to everybody. And so I'll paraphrase this, but there's a lot of unqualified biomechanics experts these days on TikTok, on Instagram, who are demonizing exercise, right? But these people, I tend to default to everybody in their own mind is doing good work for the right reasons. Now, objectively, you might look at that person and you say, no, you're wrong. Like, objectively, that's not the right reason. But in their mind, right, even if they're doing things that are bad, well, they're doing it for the right reason. Say, I have to do this now because I have this important thing that's going to help people later. And so my question is, because I know some of these people. I mean, we started this conversation about you coming on this podcast because you responded to something that I shared and said, and you said, how the hell can you support that guy? He's a net negative for our industry, basically. I won't put words in your mouth, but my response, of course, was, I don't know what this guy does. I don't know what anything does. He's been supporting my work for a long time. He put out this one post. I saw it. I thought that it was good. And so I shared it, but like I don't know about all that other stuff because I don't pay attention to this shit. Because I think that social media is a deep dark pit of despair, and I stay off of it as much as possible. And I go into my own accounts and I post and I comment and I message, and then I get
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fuck off. But how do you possibly, if you are young coming up in the game and you have good intentions and you feel like you have something to say, how do you make a name for yourself today? How do you stand out? Because doing this negative shit gets way more of a response than doing stuff that is thoughtful, that is positive. And so it reinforces doing negative stuff. And then the worst part of this is, and there's a psychological bias, I can't remember what it's called, but basically that becomes us, right? We have this, it's not, we're not really negative. We don't really believe these things too much, but we get a big response. So we do more of it. And when we do more of a thing, we start to self-identify that thing. And then we start to believe it and it starts to become more of us. And that's the cycle that's going on. So my question to you, because we don't have platforms like the Men's Health, like the T Nation that people read, where they can be objective observers and say, this person's good. They've got the CSES, they have the gym, they have whatever. We're going to put them on our pedestal and give them our credibility. None of that exists. So what do you do?
I feel like this is, I want to like, we could have the whole podcast on this exact topic, but like, all right, if I said this once to a friend, I'm like, okay, here's what I could do theoretically. Like if I could, all right, let's say I had a son and I had no integrity, like no honor, no ethics. And my son's like, say he's like, 20 years old or say he's like, he's going to go to college. He's 18 and he's like, Dad, I want to go to college and then get my master's degree and then get my PhD. And I want to do it in, this prestigious university. And all I care about is money. I'd go, son, all right, you're going to spend 4 years going to college, 3 years on your master's degree, 4 years on your PhD. You're going to incur a lot of debt. This is how much you're going to spend. By the time you are net even, it's going to be 12 years from now. And then you're in the positive. Let me tell you a better system that's going to get you a lot of money within several years. You're going to be making bank. All right. I want you to start doing jujitsu. It's going to take you a year or two just to learn enough to be convincing. Then what I want you to do is follow the top 3 jujitsu accounts. All right. The 3 best. And you memorize what they say. You mimic you say their exact verbatim. Don't even try and change it. Verbatim. Just they're saying, all right, you're going to do this move, and then you're going to do this, and then here's this transition.
You're going to hug the guy, then you're going to cuddle him a little bit, then you're going to try to choke him out. He's going to say no, then he's going to sprawl, then you're going to lie on him, and then,
here's this move, and then pretend you came up with it. And then people will come on and be like, dude, you're just stealing so-and-so's info. Just block and delete them. Block, delete, block, delete. Block, delete, limit comments. Only let your followers comment. Block, delete, block, delete. No, you're not going to get exposed anymore. You can, like people did that to me. They copied my whole system, my whole brand. I have a glute lab. They made their glute lab. I have a glute squad. They have their glute squad. I have all my equipment. They have my equipment. I have my booty, but they have but they copied my whole everything. But you do that in jiu-jitsu and then you claim you're a black belt. Who's going to follow up with, is it illegal? Are you breaking the law? You just say, I'm a black belt. I'm a whatever. I don't even know the degrees of black belt. I'm a 4th degree. I don't know. They're 10 degrees or whatever, but I'm this. And then when people start coming after you, if like the top people come after you, you hope you just have cameras in your gym and you hope they come and beat the shit out of you. Cause then you can sue them for, beating the hell out of you. And then you cancel them because you're cancel culture and you cancel them and you take over their empire. And I'm portraying the most dishonest,
some Machiavellian shit. Yeah.
That's the way you would make the most money in this day and age. Just be the biggest scoundrel you can possibly be. Speak the loudest, make black and white terms. If you're wrong, never admit it. Just move on to the next. Who cares? There's a guy in our industry who, very popular advertising type guy. I don't even remember his name actually. I just know his girlfriend wanted to train with me. Name's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, he got exposed for like verbatim reciting people's, like he'd watch like someone else's, and then he'd he'd watch like, someone's video, and then he'd just do it. This is how you do a face pull, and he'd teach the exact same, but he had the same exact lines, and he got caught, and it doesn't matter.
Just doesn't
No
matter.
one cares.
Yeah.
You don't get canceled for that or anything. You don't even get, in fact, if the person who made the video, say it was me and I made the video and I said, hey guys, I just want to bring this to your attention. John Goodman just made a video and he used my exact lines. Everyone in the comments would be like, dude, why are you so insecure? Dude, get over it. Wow. You have this, seems like you have scarcity mindset. Plenty of money for all of us, bro. So you don't even, there's no consequences.
So what's the right way? What's the right way? What would you recommend somebody do?
The right way, it depends on your goal. Is it just financial? Then be a pseudoscientist, be a snake oil salesman. Like me right now, what I could do if I wanted to make millions right now, who do you think the best people at pseudoscience would be?
Yeah,
Scientists.
Of course.
I could if I could make up my own science, I could convince so many people. I could razzle and dazzle them. Yeah. Guys like Brad Schoenfeld and myself and Alan and people, we could make up these crazy things. But anyway, I would start selling those EMS devices that shock your butt. And I'd be like, every pulse is like doing 1 rep of squats. Pick an exercise people hate to do, like Bulgarian split squats, or this is like doing a lunge. And while you're kicking back watching Netflix, you are building your glutes. And I could probably find a lab that would doctor results. So we've seen it happen in our industry.
Oh yeah.
I could make a fortune. So if money was just the only thing you cared about it, then yeah, copy people, use pseudoscience, use black and white plans. But if you actually want to live a happy life,
folks, this is what Bret Contreras recommends. Okay, Thank you for listening to the podcast. But
if you want to live a happy life, if you want to rest, if you want to go to sleep at night, because for me, it's funny. I was at this meme page the other day. This meme page was hilarious. I want to know who has it, because I'm like, oh my God, they're so smart. They're so witty. I don't know.
One of the fitness ones?
Yeah, it's like functional meme posts. And they all the people who are the loudest in the industry, they mock them so bad. And I'm like, please don't let there be any memes of me. And I went through when I can't sleep at night, I went through 2 years and there wasn't one meme of me. And I was like, that makes me proud that people aren't mocking me. Sometimes people mistake. They don't know that I created strong lifting and I have the strongest squad. I bet you I have the strongest all natural female gym in the world. And none of my girls take stuff. We're all natural. I would never let them take Anavar or anything like that. They're so freakishly strong. But sometimes people think that I just do booty bands and stuff. They don't know that they just assume that because I'm glute guy. They don't know that I'm real big on the basics and all that. But anyway, I don't get a lot of memes made about me. I would hate to be killing it, but then I get mocked. Everything I do, I'm the butt of every joke. So to me, if you want to live a happy life and be content, then you do have to be a little narcissistic in a way. You have to feel, you can't be like, oh, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to film anything. You've got to get your face out there, believe in yourself, put yourself out there. Just be humble when you're wrong. Admit it. Don't make too much clickbait where it's like the greatest, the absolute best. Don't be too clickbaity. Be humble when you're wrong. Admit it, and then don't say this exercise is garbage. This is actual trash. And then you find out you're wrong, and then you don't say anything. You just on to the next thing. Address that. Go, guys, I used to think this exercise was bad. Now I realize it's not. The latest trend is to bash bent over rows, military press, front squats, sumo deadlifts. If that's all you did, you'd be pretty freaking jacked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sumo deadlifts are getting bashed a lot. I don't quite get that. What's something that you've changed your mind on over years, training or hypertrophy wise? Let's say hypertrophy wise. Let's say in terms of gaining muscle, what's something you used to believe you don't anymore?
Stu Phillips was getting popular. Brad and I were we're on the phone, I like this guy. I can tell he has integrity, but I don't buy it. There's no way high reps can build muscle like low reps. Doing sets of 30, but we did our own study. That's the best thing you can do as a scientist. We did our own study, and Stu was right. We got the same results as Stu. We changed our mind. we've been
So what
pushing.
was it?
It was that high reps build muscle just as effectively as low reps,
Mm,
as long as you're and we did a study looking at three sets squats, 3 sets of 10 versus 3 sets of 3. The 3 sets of 10 group won. But so if you're doing super low reps, you got to add more volume in, and then it takes
yeah.
longer. The workout
A
takes
lot, a
longer.
lot of people just don't go. I mean, I remember Brad's research that came out recently that basically threw the rep scheme, the rep range
Uh-huh.
idea out the window. Like it actually, intensity is what matters. Um, whether you do 12 or 15 reps or 5 reps, like intensity is what matters.
And I think that's
But
why the 85% of one rep max and above, every rep is kind of hard. You
yeah,
have to push it hard. Whereas doing a set of 30, a lot of people doing a set of
they
20,
don't.
they'll rack the weights. They could have done 10 more. So
But
you're right.
a set of three, very few people do a pro. I mean, we get this all the time of folks who are using our software, Quick Coach, who are like, "Oh, how do I calculate, 1 3 rep max?" It's like you train mums. Like you don't ever need, and even if you do, you're never. I mean, it's so irrelevant, and you're not going to train at that
God,
intensity anyway.
I'm so glad you
So,
brought that up, John. Like there was in the NSCA book, and this guy was actually president of the NSCA at one point, and he wrote this in the personal trainer, the old book on personal training on
mhm.
periodization, and he's like for personal trainers, and he's like establish your 1 rep maximum and retest.
Oh
Like
yeah,
what the hell? You can tell you've never actually trained anyone.
yeah.
Why are you writing? What would you? You're gonna 1 rep max these overweight like.
But
Imagine
this
you have
is
them. Their
right.
first session coming in. You're like, hi, Lisa. You're overweight. You're elderly. You're this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you 1 rep max dead. I'm gonna today's session. I'm gonna 1 rep max bench, squat, deadlift,
So I can calculate your 5 RM.
so I can tell you what
Right.
loads to use. When you just give them a workout and then see what they do, adjust,
Yeah.
add load, add range of motion, add reps, figure out what they should use for workout two. And then
Right.
workout two, you bump it up a little bit, and you don't ever need to do 1 rep max testing with them.
But that's a matter of gaining expertise, isn't it? I mean, I went through that process too, right? I did the CSCS. I read Tudor Bompa's work. I mean, I went deep into all that stuff and I started building programs like that. And actually, the first viral article I ever wrote was periodization doesn't work.
Oh, I
That
remember
was
that one.
that was the
I'm like an
first
almanac. I remember that. Yeah.
that was the first viral article that I wrote, and it was exactly what we're talking about. It was just like I used to blog periodize this shit, man. I used to, all of the stuff, and then I was like, well, actually, people have real lives, and so the periodization, like undulating periodization, I think can work quite well, but the periodization, the way that we've been taught with these old like Soviet manuals back in the day, and a lot of the stuff, I don't know what the CSCS is like now, but a lot of the stuff in the CSCS when I did it, it was so completely irrelevant. But you got to work with enough clients and you got to work with enough people to figure that out. And I think that brings us back to this
It's also such a difference
conversation of
between training athletes year
well that
round
too,
versus personal training. Like it's
but
totally.
even training athletes, even
I
training
know.
athletes, man.
Agreed.
I had a fair amount of athletes. I had some Olympians. I had guys who were going to the NHL draft because I'm Canadian, so stereotypically that's of course the athletes that I had. And which is funny because like the best player on the Toronto Maple Leafs is from Phoenix, Arizona, which makes no sense. But it's I these people train for a few months in the off season and then they went and competed or whatever it was. It still wasn't year round. I mean, Olympics is different because Olympics, I mean,
Olympics, they're that this facility and yeah.
especially people who it's pretty guaranteed that they're going to qualify. So they don't need to peak for the like qualifying competitions as much. Um, then you can prepare them. But like even athletes, it wasn't the same. But this kind of brings me back to a question on like expertise and just as you work with more people, you start to figure out what you do and you didn't do. There's something that I don't remember whether you remember that you said this to me. Um, and also, this is a memory I have. And so I'm going to put words in your mouth so you can tell me whether you're wrong or not. But I remember us having this conversation probably on your couch playing with that weird little skeleton guy
Yeah,
that
Skelly.
you used to have. Skelly, yeah. And you said, dude, there was a period where I felt paralyzed from writing my blog because I learned so much about biomechanics. I learned so much about how the body works and how training works that I knew how to write information on the internet so it works as information on the internet. And I knew what I needed to do in order to do a topic justice. And I wasn't yet quite good enough. I knew enough about a thing to know that there's so much nuance and context to it in order to do it justice. But I wasn't quite good enough yet to translate that into a medium where I could basically make it so people read it, like make it engaging enough. And it kind of had to, even with blogs, you kind of needed to like say something. You needed to solve a problem, you know? And you had this point, and I had this point too, where I kind of couldn't write anything for a couple years because I was at that stage where I really just I was not qualified enough to be able to translate this in a way that's natural for the internet, but I knew enough to know that I would not have been okay with myself producing content the way that I thought that I needed to in order for that content to be successful. Is that true? Did I make that up that we had that conversation?
Yeah, and I've gone through not just phases as a writer, phases as a content producer on social media where you just hit a wall and it's like you lose your mojo
Yeah.
and it sucks. And you're watching other people go up and like it used to be me, I used to be the
Yeah, right.
rising star, and it's hard to it's humbling. It's hard to accept, like, and it's hard to watch. Yeah, to have writer's block, to have even just posting the same stuff I used to doesn't get any attention anymore. It's a different game. And I think it's a natural part of the process. Like no one, it's not like we're musician, like successful, like Beyonce types, where you come up with
Right.
30 straight or however many straight years of hits.
But she's
Tell
not
me,
coming up with that.
right? She has help, but tell me someone who was popular from when we first started coming into the game. All those strength coaches, all those T Nation riders, who's popular right now?
Well, how many people? That's what I was going to ask you. How many people from when we were coming up in the game, how many people are in any way, shape, or form relevant today? Can you count on them on one hand? Maybe two?
No, one hand.
Like it is,
There's only a
it's
couple of us left.
it's jarring, isn't it? And
I
not say, I
know.
mean, some of them have gone on to like I think about Kevin Neal, for example. I remember his writing was amazing back in the day, and he doesn't do as much publishing anymore, but he's working with the Boston Bruins as their head strength coach. So like he's good, like
Yeah.
there's guys like that, of
The,
course.
the
And then
guys that
Eric of
wanted to be coaches and didn't care about
right.
their own. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then Eric, of course, with the Yankees, and there's a number of examples of people that have gone on to have great coaching careers that largely started with information. And I don't think that it's funny because it's like what got them there, and I think this is part of our conversation is like when you produce information in the way that I think we're talking about what we're doing, and perhaps this is the answer to the question of what the heck do you do to make a name for yourself if you don't want to basically demonize stuff and like also kind of ostracize yourself
Yeah,
amongst. I mean, like I said, this conversation started because I showed something and you saw it in my story and you responded and you're like, why the hell are you sharing that guy? I'm like, oh, I never knew. And now like that guy, because I respect you so much and I didn't know what he did, I noticed what he does. And like this is a young guy coming up in the game where us old men, are kind of you're ostracizing yourself. So if you don't want to do that, I think about Ben Bruno is a good example of this as well, and Eric and not so much yourself because you built like your own businesses off of it. But the best way to learn is to teach. The best way to learn is to write and to produce content. And I think that that's understated in terms of the importance of actually producing content. A lot of the time, the only reason you should produce content is because it forces you to better understand a topic yourself. Because when you have to actually translate what you know or what you think you know into something that other people who aren't you can understand, you immediately gain a much better understanding of it and you get better so much quicker. versus now there's this like, it's not like how can I translate this in a way that other people understand it. It's how can I translate this in a way that's more entertaining. You think about guys like Ben, where he'll be the first to tell you, he's like, bro, I invented an exercise every week for my blog. And I'm embarrassed by that because he knows, looking back now, but like part of the reason why he's so successful in what he's done is because he had that blog, because he created that content, and he didn't do it for the accolades. He never made money out of the content, but it made him so good. And then because he was so
And
good,
popular too, which led, because I remember I did the
he
good
got
read for the
discovered.
week. I did the
He
good
got
read for the
discovered.
week, and then I remember I got to a point where I stopped, and I told Ben, "You'd start doing it."
Yeah.
And Ben stopped doing it, and you start doing
And
it.
then I started doing it.
Yeah, and it's
But
yeah, but
why
you,
did, how did Ben get to LA?
yeah,
Ben got to LA because one person liked his
yeah,
stuff and
and
brought him
invited.
out to LA. And the story is great. The story was this guy called him up and was like, yo, I have this gym in LA. I train all these celebrities. You know, I'd love for you to work with me. And Ben's like, oh, fuck is this guy, right? This is bullshit. And then this guy's like, I'll fly you out. And Ben's like, yeah, whatever. I'll take the flight, free trip. And he's like, I still thought it was bullshit. And then he just had me training Jessica Biel as my first session. I'm like, oh, I guess this guy's legit. Like, it didn't work out with that guy, but that ended up like down a path. And like,
Could you
one
imagine
person,
like, how nervous you'd be?
but I don't think that I would be though, right? Because I had that experience in Toronto a bunch of times. You know, Toronto's a bit of a hotbed in Canada for
Yeah.
movies, for celebrities and stuff like that. So I trained like, I don't talk about this often, but I trained high profile people a fair bit. I trained Canada's top jazz singer for years. Zach Hyman, who's like probably an all-star this year, you know, just signed an $8 million contract, was on the Leafs for like 4 or 5 years. Like I got him ready for the combine. Like he, like a lot of high Olympians, whatever actors. And, like Drake came into our gym, and I didn't train Drake, but Drake came into our gym. I think any other place in my life I would have been nervous, but that was my home, man. You're coming into my house now. I wasn't nervous at all with these
I wouldn't
people
be
because I was
nervous
so confident in my
if they came
abilities.
to me, but me going to them.
You think
It's
so?
like, well, for me, like I have girls doing, you know, the average hip thrust strength in my gym is 550. Of like 30
Yeah.
girls, their average hip thrust strength is 550 pounds.
Right.
And so,
Right.
you know, 405 for 10 is not that big of a deal in my gym for hip thrust. So you don't want to scare Jessica Biel out and be like,
Yeah,
here,
no, I get that.
let's see how many. I'm going to put 225 on. Let's see how many times you can hip thrust. And Ben's taught me a lot about celebrities and how you have to trick a lot of them into having a good workout because they're paranoid about getting bulky.
Yeah.
So you have to trick them. You have to do a lot of single leg stuff and band stuff because then they're getting a good workout, but they don't see weight.
Yeah.
They don't see extra loads. You have to load up the joints, load up the muscles without adding a lot of external load.
Well, I remember talking to him about different physiques. He was talking to me about like this a couple of years ago, but he's like, the male physique in Hollywood is to not look like you lift, but to be lean. He's like, I can't get these guys muscular. Like I can't.
No. He'll be like, I got sick and lost 10 pounds, and everyone's like, dude, you look great. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
We're
super interesting.
Like, bro, you got to gain those 10 pounds back. Get your
but I
bench
think
back. Like,
I mean, this goes down to a conversation about luck, though, doesn't it? It comes down to this conversation to me is about
absolutely.
Like preparation and obsession and luck and understanding that when you truly prepare yourself, luck does happen. It doesn't seem like it, and it's like nothing, boom, it happens really, really quickly. And I mean that happened with you. Like you shot up quickly too, in terms of your business. Like once you decided to make the move and build the businesses, what you say, you had 1,200 members and like right away, like that's insane. The only reason that shit happened is because you had been doing all that other work for years, obsessively preparing. In other cases, you know, in Ben's case, it was
in Ben's case, before he ever became a strength coach, he was on these like you know, that like DC dog crap training. Remember he would be on those forums and stuff, posting videos. There's videos of him doing leg press. You know, I don't know how much is on there, but you think he'd stop at like 30 reps, but he ended up getting like 80. He ended up getting 80 and his
Seriously?
nose is bleeding. And he would win that they would on that forum, they would give you like awards for like the person who trained hardest that week and he'd win it all the time. Like the
Right.
dude, I mean,
It's just a maniac.
back before we cared so much about deadlifting form. Well, deadlifting form went this way, and then now it's back to round all
Yeah.
you want. Who cares? But it went to a point where this way was like if you aren't arched back, you should be
Yeah.
imprisoned. You're the worst person ever. But he had it like trap bar deadlifts 405 for 20. I mean, he weighed like 180 back then, and that was back when he was young as hell. Like.
Right.
His nose would bleed during the middle of the workouts. But he put in the work as a lifter. But you, me, him, you see a common theme as we read, we learn from people, we
Right.
absorb what's useful and discard what isn't. We
And
you know what I
we
mean?
and we don't rush it. We don't rush it. We prepare. We put our work into the world. We take in the feedback, and we course correct if needed. And we wait for an opportunity. And then when that opportunity comes, we fucking pounce.
Well, that's what like I'll leave with an awesome story.
Yeah.
My friend Carrie Northington, it's so funny because when I credit her, all these people around me are like, I said the same thing, and you credit her. Well,
Right.
whatever she did, she's the one who got through to me. She's like, Bret, you're the world's glute expert, and you don't have a flagship glute program. I'm like, yeah, I do. I got Strong by Bret. She goes, that sounds like powerlifting. I don't want to do Strong by Bret. I want glutes by Bret. I go, well, I trademarked booty by Bret. I just never did anything with it. And she's like, call it booty by Bret and actually promote it. So
It takes somebody, it takes one person,
yeah, but
right?
she's like, look,
Even if they're the fifth person to tell you to do a thing.
you're training all these people, you're writing all these programs.
Yeah.
It's just more and more work. You focus on this, it's not more work. It's the same amount of work, and you just make more and more money from it. She's like, call it booty by Bret and actually promote it because you never promote your stuff.
She should have
So
asked for 2%.
she should have. It took us like a month or two to get everything redone, redesigned the website and everything, called it Booty by Bret, told our members, look, it's the same workout. It's the same thing. It's just the only addition is we're going to have 2 optional additional glute workouts that you could do from home with body weight and bands. It's the
Right.
same 3 days full body. Call it Booty by Bret and actually promote it. And I filmed an ad for it. I made the post
Right.
and then I promoted it for like 3 months. And like, yeah, it's got 11,000 members right now. And they're paying $30 every 4 weeks.
Right.
And so she single-handedly helped me make millions,
Mhm.
but I can just walk through you name it. I never was going to design a machine. My aunt told me, sounds like you need to design something. I go, I can't design anything. Sure you can. You have your master's degree. You're smart. You and your brother are always good at drawing. Design something.
Right.
And I drew it out.
But you
Someone
drew
told me
it. I didn't know that.
yeah, I drew it out. I have this sketchbook, uh,
Right.
notarized. And you know what? It was funny. I was looking through that. It's right here on my table. I was looking through it the other day. The UFC fight that caused me to come up with the idea
Yeah.
was October 10th, 2006. And the drawing was like notarized October 17th or 19th or so. It was like basically 7 or 9 days later, I'm notarizing a drawing. Then I came out with a scorcher. Then I came out with the hip thruster.
The
And
scorcher. I remember
yeah,
that.
with a K, scorcher with a K. But it
Yeah,
was
I remember
like
that.
everything I've done is someone else's idea. Hell, the glute guy, Martin Rooney told me to call myself the glute guy.
Oh, did he?
Scorcher, I think my sister came up with the name. Glute Lab was my clients, Aaron and
Yeah.
Sammy said, call it the Glute Lab. They even made me a logo that was like the Breaking Bad logo, like a beaker.
Right.
And
But all
yeah,
of this happened. All of this happened because you showed up and did the work the right way, and these opportunities presented themselves, and you didn't rush it. But again, That's not the end of the story. And I want to make that so clear for anybody listening. The end of the story is when an opportunity presented itself, you pounce on it. And that's what often misses. There's like one, maybe two, maybe three important decisions I make every single year.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think, what people miss. When I make a decision, it is a massive, 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 massive decision. And I maybe make 3 decisions a year. And the rest of my time, I'm reading, I'm creating content, I'm talking to people, and I'm preparing to make the best decision possible by gathering as much information, and B, to put myself in a position that when I make a decision, I can launch that thing into the universe.
Mm-hmm. That's what my CEO Matt told me. He says, Bret, one reason we've always been so successful is because you don't take your money out of the company.
Yeah.
You leave it in, and we always have money. We're never like, we can't do this, we don't have enough money. And
the worst position you can be in is backed into a corner where you have to.
The only time that's
where you're
happened
forced to make decisions.
During the
Is what?
pandemic, if you made equipment during the pandemic, it was so frustrating because if you would have just ordered $10 million worth of equipment. And
nobody could get it.
Oh God, you would have been, if you would have predicted that, you would have been rich. As everyone in the world was trying to buy plates, and so that at that time we were limited by we weren't limited by money, but limited by how quickly we could get equipment delivered. But the point is, we've always been nuts. It was nuts, but we've always been in a position where we can implement the ideas and things that we have. Yeah. And it is just a funny looking back, like the questions you've asked me during this podcast, like, are you happy with your success and level of celebrity and all that? It's like, I've told you, I've never taken the time. Maybe I should take the time to reflect more and smell the roses, kick back. But I always like that Rage at the Dying of Light poem or whatever. I've never been one to just, set off into the sunset. This industry I'm so passionate about. I want to be influential. I want to be, when these guys, you talk about these new biomechanics guys, Andrew Coates' question about the new biomechanics guys, I'm single-handedly countering them. I'm a one-man army countering 20 of these guys and being the voice of reason, being like, okay, you can do chest supported rows, but you can also do bent over rows. You can do them both. I get it, your rationale, but yes, you should do hack squats or leg press, but you can also do front squats. Sometimes they work great too. You don't have to be you don't have to
demonize it.
They're how boring their programs must be. So anyway, I like having that influence. I like being able to steer our industry in the right direction,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's seasons to it. I hope that you find a season where you'll decide that, things are good for a little bit. Like I can really enjoy it.
You had kids, you got married, had kids. I didn't go that route.
Yeah.
I've
but I never gave myself permission to enjoy it until I had my second kid.
Yeah.
The best advice that I've been given that I never took.
Yeah.
Was things are going pretty good for you, right? You should enjoy it. Because I never wanted any of this. I never desired any of this. I never woke up one day and was like, I'm going to be a digital nomad millionaire. Like I'm going to get into fitness to make money. Like nobody gets into fitness to make money. And good stuff happened. Not all the time, but good stuff happened a lot of the time. And I woke up one day and I was like, I'm pretty good. But I never gave myself permission to enjoy it until I had my second child. And now that I do, I'm in a phase right now. I'm in a season right now where I'm just chilling. Like things are good. I don't feel like I need to push. I produced a software platform. Quick Coach is fucking phenomenal. But I don't feel any pressure to really push it. Because I know that every single day we're getting better. And I know that the longer it takes somebody to discover us, the better we'll be. And I think we're phenomenal now. And I think the right people will find us now. And I'm okay with some people not finding us now because I know that I'm going to be around in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you've shown that, and we've shown that together. Where, I mean, you said like you can't even count on one hand. In order to stick around in this industry and continue to be relevant and continue to make money and continue to do things in a way that you think is right for year after year after year, decade plus, you've got to reinvent yourself. You've got to evolve. You've got to continue to figure it out. You've got to take some licks, right? And
You have
and
to care
you've
about, I'm like 46-year-old PhD, and I'm like, I have to care about putting the trendy song to my reels. I have to care
yeah,
about
right,
TikTok and stuff. Otherwise, you become irrelevant. Like the
right,
people we're talking about, they didn't embrace the change,
right.
and it's hard. It's really hard to learn new things. You're set in your ways. It sucks. That's why
But you've done that.
the younger guys are they're so adaptable. They can switch on a dime. They're not
I
set
don't
in
think that they are though. I don't think that they are, Brett.
Well, I'm waiting for them
I
to
think they're
swing
just the
back.
younger guys now. I think they're just the
Yeah.
younger guys now. And I think in 2 years there's going to be new younger guys. And most of the younger guys now are going to be obsolete. And
Well,
I
I'm
think
waiting
that in
for the
another
pendulum
two
to
years,
swing
that's going
back
to
to
keep
where
happening.
I'm hoping at least it's swung this way, where it's like they just want bold, and then they'll swing back
Yeah.
to like actual experts who have the credibility, who have put in the time as trainers. They owned a gym. They were actual trainers. They actually got certifications. They don't
Right.
ask, people don't ask those questions now. They don't care. It's actually it's actually a disadvantage right now to own a gym.
Hmm.
To own a gym right now, and to have clients. Though every hour you spent with clients could be an hour you could have made another TikTok. You
Right.
know, they're
The
posting.
advantage goes to the TikToker,
Yeah,
not the
not the
practitioner, right?
practitioner. The practitioner
Yeah.
has no. They don't, because it doesn't matter. No one says, "Wait, are you actual coach? Do you actually train people?" No one cares. This person has not a single video of them ever training anyone else. They're just
Yeah.
they'll look jacked, and they make these bold, and that's what matters, is you getting out there, the frequency, posting 8 times a day. How the hell would we ever post 8 times a day if you're actually training people? You
Right.
can't. You're busy all day long making those. But I hope this pendulum swings back eventually.
I think it might. But what I also know is this. I know that you're going to keep figuring it out because you've shown an ability to continue to figure it out. You've shown an ability to withstand, to be resourceful, to surround
Stay
yourself
relevant.
with the right
Yeah,
kind of people, to
right.
continue to put out great information in different mediums over the years. And you're going to figure out how to continue doing that. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for you in this industry. I'm thankful for our friendship. And this was a fun conversation, man.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
John. Appreciate it.